Good evening and welcome to tonight's episode of StormCast. I'm your host, Joey Pisani. Great to have you guys on this evening here. We got the three amigos back here for this episode tonight. We got Dan up in Wisconsin. How are you doing tonight, Dan?
Oh, pretty good. Thanks for having me on here.
Awesome. And down in Florida with some exciting action this week we'll be talking about later. It's Rob. How you doing, Rob?
I'm good.
Awesome. And I am Joey here in EWVHQ in Atlanta. And in case you guys don't know, you are watching StormCast. So let's get it started here. This is StormCast. Today is Monday, January 28th, 2019. We've got some great stories here that we'll be talking about tonight. Before we get to that, always remember that you can interact with us live during the show. Just tweet to us during the show using the hashtag EWVStormCast or mention at ExtremeWX on Twitter. I do have my Twitter feed open, so I will see your guys' comments throughout the show. So looking forward to that. Couple top stories here for tonight on the StormCast. Our first one we'll be talking about will be the big one, Winter Storm JAyden. Its effects across portions of the upper Midwest and what we'll be looking at across the Southeast tomorrow. And then we're also going to talk about there was a tornado in Miami. Rob will be telling us about that and another pretty strong one in Cuba as well. So let's move right into it. We'll start here with our current winter storm watches, warnings, and advisories. So I'll start with that, and then Dan's going to tell us a little bit about exactly what went on in portions of the upper Midwest. So as you can see, Winter Storm JAyden is starting to wind down across portions of the upper Midwest. There were a lot of winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories across portions of Minnesota and Iowa and Wisconsin. A lot of those have now been downgraded or dropped. Still winter storm warnings in effect across portions of Western Michigan and Northern Michigan. And now the focus is turning from the upper Midwest to parts of the Ohio Valley and into the South, where tomorrow we're seeing the possibility for some winter weather down there. Winter storm warnings have now been posted for parts of central Mississippi, central and northern Alabama, far northern Georgia, and the western tip of North Carolina, with a lot of winter storm watches and winter weather advisories surrounding that for the areas that you see outlined. Also, that same winter storm going to be affecting parts of the Northeast into portions of eastern New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and into Maine, where they could be picking up anywhere, depending on the area, 6 to 8 inches of snowfall possible for some of these areas. And they just got through Winter Storm Indra not too long ago. Also interesting to note, freeze warnings in effect for portions of southeast Georgia and northern Florida, with a lot of cold air that is going to be coming in. Before we talk about what's coming in, let's toss it over to Dan here. And Dan, tell us a little bit about what we saw in the upper Midwest here and what you're expecting as we go through the next couple days.
Yeah, well, it's going to get cold, but when JAyden came through, she dropped quite a bit of snow. Of course, it started up by the Dakotas. Let me get back to the graphic here. But it's certainly going to get cold. As far as snow, we'll get to that in just a second. But the wind chill is going to get pretty low. We're taking a look at the wind chill timeline right now, starting tomorrow morning, already down to minus 21 degrees. And then Wednesday is going to be the coldest day. We could see wind chills as low as minus 50 with these winds kicking in. And then if you can call it a warm-up, negative 16 by Friday.
Yeah.
So taking a look at the lows Wednesday and Thursday morning, pretty much all of southeast Wisconsin going to be right around that minus 20 degree mark. This is, well, let's see, Thursday morning could be as low as minus 48 around my area, minus 50 out towards Madison area. So definitely some cooler weather coming in after this storm here.
Yeah, I mean, I also see minus 53 there up near Juneau on Wednesday morning and Portage. So, I mean, even 54 over toward Lone Rock. I mean, those are brutally cold temperatures there.
Definitely.
So, I mean, interesting. I don't know if you can see this, but they mentioned here that once the temperatures fall below zero on Monday night, they're not going to rise back above zero until Friday. Think of how long that duration is. I mean, that is crazy. And speaking of duration, Dan, I mean, walk us through this timeline here for me.
Well, so basically we're looking at tonight right now. So our winter storm warning from Jayden actually expired a couple of hours ago. I would say the snow tapered off around my area around 4 or 5 o'clock p.m. So that was pretty accurate. And then we're going to enjoy our, call it 10-hour break, where we actually don't have a wind chill advisory or a winter storm warning, believe it or not. But then things kick off again tomorrow morning at 4 a.m. We're under another wind chill advisory. And that'll take us all the way into Tuesday night when it then becomes a warning. Wind chill warnings down to anywhere between negative 35 to minus 55 degrees overnight Wednesday through Wednesday all the way until noon on Thursday. That wind chill warning is in effect until. And then taking a look at Thursday night into Friday morning, it's technically too far out at this point to actually issue that. But here, as you can see, it's likely that another wind chill advisory will be issued based upon the forecast that they're looking at for Thursday and Friday again.
Yeah, and just for folks that are watching, wind chill advisory is required when, wind chills get to 20 below. And a wind chill warning is once wind chills drop below 35 degrees. That real field temperature is negative 35 degrees. And again, this isn't like, happens a whole lot. I mean, wind chill advisories, yeah, I mean, maybe 5 per year, but, a wind chill warning, you're only talking once every couple years. So this is very serious. It's
interesting that you mentioned that. I can't remember the source. I want to say it was through the National Weather Service. We don't have a graphic for this. But when I was putting together these graphs here for you, that this is all, by the way, from the National Weather Service in Milwaukee. It was stated there that I don't quote me on this, but I believe we average a wind chill warning once and only every 3 years. So from those that aren't in Wisconsin, we may have a reputation of a lot of cold weather and a lot of snow. And from time to time, we can get quite a bit of snow. But we usually don't have that deep cold that we're going to be experiencing through most of this week coming up yet.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not just the cold. I mean, you also saw quite a bit of snow today as well. So let's take a look at those snow totals here across.
Yes. Now, they put this out shortly after 9 o'clock a.m. So these aren't final totals, but they did put together what was accumulated so far up until, well, actually a little bit later, up until about 10 o'clock this morning. And I'm taking a look at the graphic on the left here. And as you can see, the highest bands of snow was basically all the way through that southern third of Wisconsin, south central Wisconsin, all the way from La Crosse through Toma, through the Wisconsin Dells, and then all the way east to Lake Michigan, between Milwaukee, Sheboygan, even Kenosha getting in on some of those higher amounts. Madison and south, as forecasted, was a little bit less. And the main target area was that swath that you can see there in orange and yellow. Mm-hmm. And then taking a look at the graph on the right, still minor accumulation expected tonight. When I was taking a look at radar, as of right now, as we speak, it looks like things have pretty much winded down. But following after about 10 o'clock or so, this is what they were anticipating. You could see some of that lake enhancement kicking in, especially up towards Sheboygan and that, with another 4 to 6 inches was expected to fall. We don't have total numbers yet.
Probably have it by tomorrow.
Yeah, probably by tomorrow. The southwest portion of the state didn't see much more. After that, initial burst came through late morning and early afternoon today.
Yeah, but I think places like Fond du Lac and Juneau probably saw a little bit more. I saw that heavier band kind of move through there earlier this afternoon.
Yeah, I was watching radar myself earlier today, and it did look like some of that set up again north of my area. But some of that lake effect coming into play for the northern counties for southeast Wisconsin.
Yeah, and so we'll definitely keep it. Make sure you guys are following us on Twitter. We'll definitely post those completed snowfall totals tomorrow over on our Twitter account at ExtremeWX Videos. Now, last week we talked a little bit about, the importance of, how to deal with these extremely cold temperatures that we're going to be seeing across portions of the upper Midwest, even into the Ohio Valley, and what is the proper response. But I'm sure not everyone that's here maybe got to see that last week. So we wanted to kind of go over that again. And I wanted to kind of have Dan kind of talk about this because, he kind of lives up in this area and is probably familiar with frostbite. And, it's, if you Google frostbite, you can get some pretty scary images there. So it's very serious condition. So Dan, tell us about, frostbite and hypothermia and how to keep yourself safe from the cold over these next couple of days.
Well, you want to take a look at, let's take a look at some of the warning signs first. As you can see, I'm taking a look from over on the left here. Confusion, shivering, any difficulty speaking, sleepiness, stiff muscles. Those are all signs that hypothermia is starting to kick in. As far as frostbite goes, your extremities. So typically, fingers, toes, nose, ears, any skin that's exposed. If the skin turns blue or gray, very swollen, blistered, or feels hard or numb, you need to seek medical attention immediately. As far as times being set in for frostbite, at 10 degrees, as little as 30 minutes. Or more for frostbite. Below zero, which we're going to be experiencing up in my area, 5 minutes. 5 minutes of exposed skin, you could potentially start,
developing
frostbite. The windier it is, the faster it'll occur. Again, that comes into play, especially Wednesday when we have those higher winds kick in. When we were taking a look at those wind chills expected all the way down to minus 50. First aid for frostbite. Get indoors as fast as possible. Don't try to heat up too fast. You're not going to want to, turn on the hot water and get your hands warm right away. Slow to rewarm. Avoid the heaters, any fires. And until you can get indoors, don't rub or massage cold body parts. Try putting your hands in your armpits, drink warm fluids, extra layers, clothes, blankets, anything that you might have available. And then remove any kind of rings, watches, or any other tight jewelry-related items. And that should help.
Yeah. Absolutely on that. And we've had a long winter, and things are definitely, that's one concern up there in the upper Midwest is the frostbite. But as we know here, we're going to be talking about it here not too long from now. But another thing is driving safety in these snowy conditions, especially here in the South. Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, where we don't see a whole lot of snow. Tomorrow, especially over into portions of central Mississippi and northern and central Alabama, likely going to be seeing at least some snowfall accumulation. So I just want to take a quick minute to go over some winter driving safety tips with everyone. A couple things that are really important just to keep in mind. Maybe you've heard of these, maybe you haven't gotten all this. I know the graphic probably going to be a little small for you guys, but I'll kind of go through it here. The first thing that no matter whether it's snow is falling or not, during the winter you should always have an emergency kit. And I always say have an emergency kit in your vehicle year round, not just during winter or severe weather season. Things that your emergency kit particularly for winter should include have some blankets, some bottled water, some non-perishable foods like crackers and bread and things like that. Also, another good thing, have yourself a small shovel. You can buy a small shovel at like Home Depot or something like that, 10, 15 bucks. Nice shovel. If you already have a emergency kit, make sure you constantly go through your kit to update any items that may have been, expired or something that, got broken or cracked or things like that. So always make sure you update your kit. If you're going to be heading out before you leave, if you're having snow, in your driveway or on the road, try and clear as much ice and snow off of your vehicle as possible. We posted a video earlier this week on Facebook about, what not to do. And don't be that guy that's, your windshield is, Don't be the guy where your windshield is completely covered and you're driving down the road and you got your little ice scraper and snow scraper and you're trying to clear your windshield as you're going driving down the road. Yeah, don't drive an igloo down the highway. That's not what anyone wants to see. You're just going to become the next laughingstock of the internet. So always make sure you clear off your vehicle appropriately prior to your departure for your trip, because that will just save you time and it will also help those around you that you're not a hazard. Because if you're not clearing off snow, especially in places where you get a lot of snow and you get a foot or a foot and a half of snow on top of your roof, and you start driving down the highway, all that snow is going to come detached from your roof, and it can become a hazard and cause accidents and things like that. Thirdly, once you're driving, make sure you slow down. Just because the speed limit is 70 doesn't mean that with all the winter weather and snow and ice on the roads that same speed limit still applies. So really, especially if you're not as an experienced driver, take it slow. Slower traffic, keep to the right. Faster traffic to the more experienced snow drivers to the left. Things like that. Also, be mindful of, not necessarily, especially in the north, which lanes are best to travel on. Typically, not all of the lanes on the interstate will be advisable to travel on. So, don't drive on those completely snow-covered lanes because sometimes there can be black ice underneath of them. So make sure you're driving slow. Also, this is really important. If you start to skid, especially as we get into here in the South on tomorrow afternoon into the evening commute, I think could be really treacherous tomorrow for portions of the South. If you start to skid, you hit a long patch of black ice and you start to skid, first of all, remain calm. It's not the first time it's happened to someone. Do not press on the gas. Ease your foot off the gas slowly and turn your wheel in the direction of the skid, not out of the direction of the skid, because if you turn it out of the direction of the skid, you are likely going to spin your vehicle. Also, most vehicles these days, not all of them, but if your vehicle has anti-lock braking system, it's going to when you brake, don't pump your brakes. Just apply a nice, light, steady pressure to the brake pedal to slow your vehicle. Depending on if you're going straight, you should safely be able to glide over the skid. Just keep your steering wheel straight. Again, but if you do start to turn to the right or to the left, turn your steering wheel into the skid and lightly apply pressure to the brake. So that should help everyone out there.
I do have a couple of things I'd like to add to that, if you don't mind.
Go for it, Dan.
Depending, and those are all really good general tips. And in most situations, that will help. If you want to take it a step further, it also kind of depends on what the drivetrain of your vehicle is, and then what type of skid it is. You have braking skids, acceleration skids, and cornering skids. If you're in a braking skid and you have a front-wheel drive car, you're going to lose steering. If you have a rear-wheel drive car, you can at least still turn. Just things like that. For all-wheel drive, a lot of times you can still turn into the direction that you want to go, and in some rare cases, you may actually want to apply additional gas to actually drift through it. But those are some, most drivers might not feel comfortable doing that. And then my other extra tip was extra windshield wipers. In winter, ice will tear up a windshield wiper over time. So you'll find that if you're in those kind of conditions, if one of your windshield wipers happen to come apart or break, keep that extra set of windshield wipers in the trunk of your car, even if it's just the old ones that you took off that was from the last time. You may not have a brand new set in the trunk ready to go, but an old wiper will still work better than one that's broken.
Absolutely. Excellent tip there, Dan. Excellent. So, Rob, we're going to be coming right to you here in just a moment, but real quick, I did want to mention kind of what we're looking at here for tomorrow as we get here into the south. We took a look at the main map earlier and just kind of recapping that for everyone. So we're going to see winter weather stretching from portions of central Mississippi, east, northeast, through much of central and northern Alabama, and into parts of northern Georgia, southern, southeastern Tennessee, maybe even into western North Carolina as well. We're not expecting a whole lot really anywhere. I mean, maximum totals are probably going to be in the maybe up to 3 inches in a couple spots, mostly in the 1 to 2 inch range across much of that winter storm warning area. Now, here in North Georgia, this is what the National Weather Service out of Peachtree City has put out. So as you can see, winter storm warning for far northern Georgia and northwestern Georgia, winter weather advisory to the south, including the Atlanta metro area. Now, I don't think this is going to be what we had last January, where we picked up, 8 to 10 inches in parts of the northern suburbs of Atlanta last January. This is going to be a very light snowfall event, even into portions of the southern and eastern suburbs. You may not really see any snow stick to the ground at all. Might just get some light flurries. But official forecasting, about 0 to 1 inch in and around the Atlanta area up toward Gainesville. Higher totals west of Atlanta in the Carrollton area, also up into the Canton. And then once you get into far northern Georgia, Rome, Dalton, Blairsville, Ellijay, those areas is where you'll probably see some higher snowfall totals in the 1 to 2 inch range. Maybe a couple spots getting close to 3 inches, especially up in the mountains up near Chattanooga, possibly getting closer to 3 inches. But again, I don't think that this is going to be, a huge snowfall event here for at least Georgia. I think it'll be a little bit more impactful for portions of central and northern Alabama into central Mississippi, because as that front is moving its way from west to east, it's going to be drying out. The moisture is going to be drying up. So by the time it gets over here to Georgia, we'll kind of be on its last limbs, so to say, with the moisture content. So that's why we're not expecting as much snowfall. So that kind of wraps up our discussion there on Winter Storm JAyden, but that's not the only thing we want to talk about, because we had quite an eventful week down in the maritime areas like Florida and Cuba. So Rob's going to tell us a little bit about the tornado that we had in Cuba, and then also the tornado that we had near Miami, Florida. So, Rob, talk to us a little bit about the tornado that happened in Cuba, because that was a pretty big, strong tornado from what we saw.
Okay, so a deadly tornado did plow through Havanna Sunday night. At least 3 people are now dead. That has been reported, and more than 100 injured. After the tornado was going through Havanna, shortly after, a lot of vehicles, buildings, and down power lines were emerging out of the capital. There's several damages of images and stuff like that. Very, very sad event. The funnel plowed east-northeast just to the port of Havanna, and then missing National Capitol building a mile and a half to the north.
Wow.
It intensified and reached its maximum strength in about 5 minutes before exiting offshore into the Straits of Florida.
Man, a mile and a half from the Capitol building. That is a really close call. Really close call.
Yes.
Let me share this with you guys here, because this kind of shows. I got a radar image from the Havanna tornado here on GR level 3. I was able to grab off of the Key West radar. So there is Havanna, Cuba here, right in this area here. And so you can kind of see, it was a kind of like a high precipitation type of storm, wasn't super, well defined, but you can clearly see here on the velocity image on the top right corner there, that velocity couplet there. Again, this kind of after it had gone through, I was able to grab it. But again, so, just shows, and then we got our spectrum width showing kind of some of the debris that it had picked up and things like that. So that was definitely pretty intense. So 3 dead and at least 173 injured in that tornado. And it was actually, so that was later that evening. Earlier on in that day, Rob, there was also another tornado in near Miami. Tell us about
that. This tornado touched down in Hialeah, in Miami-Dade, Broward. Officials said a small tornado briefly touched down in western Hialeah as severe weather wreaked havoc in parts of Broward and Miami-Dade counties and caused flight delays at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport.
Wow.
I believe it was a strong EF0 they classified as.
Yeah, with winds of up around 80, 85 miles per hour. So there's a picture that Sky News 10 was able to track earlier this morning. So we grabbed this from their Twitter feed there of some of the damage there in Hialeah, Florida. And this, interestingly enough, that tornado was near actually Hialeah Gardens, to be specific, which was about 10, maybe 15 minutes from where I used to live when I lived down there in Miami. So when I saw this, I'm like, wow, that is that's pretty close to my old home there. So really something different there.
Also, even though it was a small tornado, it did knock down trees in a nearby park, like you just said. The debris made it impossible to drive or walk through the area that it hit.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of tossed debris.
Very, very devastating.
As well. So our next thing that we want to kind of talk about here is kind of some of the pictures and videos that got sent in to us from this past week. So we're going to move into our next segment here, This Week in Media. So this week in media, obviously, we had snow. And so Dan there sent in this picture from his neighborhood there in Elkhorn, Wisconsin. So thank you, Dan, for sending that in. So how hard was it for you to get to work this morning?
It wasn't as bad as I was expecting. Fortunately for me, I happened to notice a plow go through the neighborhood about 15, 20 minutes before I had to leave for work. Getting out of the neighborhood was the hardest part. Kind of had to power slide through the driveway in order to get to the road, but once I made it onto the road and once I got to the main highway, then it was fine. Still got to be cautious. Definitely taking the advice that we had mentioned before about safe driving tips. But nope, I got up about an extra 20, 25 minutes from what I normally do. Gave myself some extra time. Go slow, plenty of following distance. No, sudden, inputs of turning or anything like that. Smooth and steady. They actually did a really good job of, I do have to say, for as fast. The snowfall rates that we had overnight was close to an inch an hour. For as little time as they had to get the roadways clear for those morning commuters, they really did a good job. So it wasn't too bad.
Gotcha. So talk to us. One other thing I wanted to ask you was, what are like school closing things like up there? Are you guys having a lot of that with these wind chills and things like that? I know here in Atlanta, they actually called off pretty much everywhere in North Georgia is closed tomorrow. Even the government offices are all going to be closed tomorrow due to our winter weather that we're anticipating.
No. Schools, at least the school district that I'm in, has not announced closing tomorrow. Normal operation for tomorrow. It is going to get cold, but not cooler than what the calling off limits are.
Wow.
They did call school for Monday. They already declared that Sunday night with the snowstorm that was going through, so that was already called.
So you guys didn't have school today, but you're having school tomorrow.
As far as we know at this point, they have not called it yet.
Gotcha. That's kind of surprising with how cold it's supposed to get there with those wind chills and things like that.
Now when you're in the north, that's winter. Now Tuesday night into Wednesday, they may call school for Wednesday. I would not be surprised if they called it. The kids standing at the bus stops, if we go as low as minus 50-degree wind chill, they're going to call it. Now, when we were taking a look at the graphs, that was the far end of the extreme of things. Mm-hmm. We'll probably be closer to the 30, maybe 40 below. If that's the case, then those wind chill warnings, I would not be surprised if they called school for Wednesday. But as far as I know, at least as of right now, school on tomorrow.
Well, hope those kids in the north are ready for it. So here in the south, I hope you guys all enjoy your day off tomorrow for sure. Again, if it snows and you guys get pictures, please send it in to us. We would love to feature your pictures here on a StormCast. Just use the hashtag EWVLive. Send those pictures in to us or just tag us at ExtremeWX Videos so we can see those throughout the StormCast. Another picture that got sent in to us, a little bit different of sorts, but absolutely beautiful. This was from one of our team members out in Oklahoma from this morning of the sunrise there in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Thank you, Cindy, for sending this in to us. Much appreciated. And then this picture here was from the Associated Press. Ramon Espinoza took this photo there of the damage in Havanna, Cuba. You can see the street pole there toppled and the car overturned. So very significant tornado damage there in the downtown Havanna area. And then the last thing that got sent into us here, this is a video from Turkey. You guys may have seen this. This was sent into us on Twitter. Thank you, Taz Merstan, for sending this to us. Check this out, guys. I mean, look at the debris just being lofted up in there. I mean, so yeah, I mean, Dan, Rob, I mean, what do you guys think about something like that? I mean, what's your reaction?
That is very devastating. I've just all the debris is just it's crazy. Everything's just like destroyed. Very sad for the people over there.
Yeah. What I noticed is that it seemed like it took a lot of people by surprise. Something I would take away from that is be weather aware. Always be ready. Even if a storm isn't forecasted to go severe, plan ahead. Should it do so, and don't let it catch you by surprise.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was absolutely absolutely crazy. But thank you again for sending that in. And again, we want to get to see your guys' pictures and videos and stuff like that. So just get that out to us, and we'll be glad to share it. Today has been, a nice day, at least down here, different up north. But Rob's going to tell us a little bit. I always enjoy this segment of our show. It is Today in Weather History. So, Rob, what happened on January 28th in weather history?
Today in weather history, January 28th, 1757. On a bitterly cold day in York Factory, Manitoba, it was cold enough to freeze English brandy. English brandy freezes at negative 26 degrees.
That's
also, yes. Also today in 1887, the largest snowflakes in the world fell across Fort Keogh in Montana. The flakes were measured at a massive 15 inches across by 8 inches thick. So,
whoa! Can you imagine that? 15 by 8 inch snowflakes, Dan. What would you do if you had that falling there in your area?
Want to build a snowman? Done.
Nice one.
Yeah, it takes like 3 snowflakes for you to build a snowman,
Yeah. Good information on the brandy. Being up here in Wisconsin, we appreciate our brandy, so that's a good reminder to bring mine inside from the garage. So thank you, Rob. Appreciate that.
Negative 26, Dan. That is the key number. That is the key number. Man. So, last thing, our roundtable discussion here. So, Dan, I guess we'll start with you. So, talk to us about, what you're expecting for the remainder of the week, weather-wise, and anything else that's on your mind.
Cold. Bundle up. One thing I didn't talk about when we had the timeline for the wind chills coming up on Wednesday was the actual temp. I believe we are forecasted for minus 12 for a high actual temp, not wind chill. Actual temp, the high is forecasted, at least as of right now, minus 12. I believe one of the graphics that I was looking at earlier from the National Weather Service said in 1951 we had a high-low of minus 14, I think. So don't quote me on this, but I know we're really close. We have a chance to tie or possibly beat that coming up on Wednesday. In other words, that our highest temp is the coldest temp that's ever been recorded. And right now, that I know the record is 1951. I believe the temperature is minus 14, and we're forecasted for minus 12. So we'll see what happens.
Gotcha. Wow. Awesome. Yeah, and that you bring up an excellent point. A lot of people probably are hearing, oh, this is record breaking, all time records. Honestly, a lot of it's not going to be all time records, but a lot of daily records will be broken, most likely. But we're not going to be breaking a whole lot of all time records. A couple places might get close to the all time, but most places will be breaking daily records. So for that specific day, like for January 29th or January 30th. So keep that in mind when you see some of these weather stories and things like that, and people making claims about all the all-time records are going to be broken. That's not true.
No, because we should actually be in the upswing already. Our coldest temps that we get, we should be past. But then this little thing called the polar vortex decided to come visit us down here in southern Wisconsin. So we're going to be stuck in that vortex for a little while.
Yeah, but I mean, I've looked at some of the long-range models, and at least here in the South, it looks like we're going to warm up. We might even get to see some thunderstorms come the first part of February. So that's definitely exciting news to me. What about you, Rob? What are your thoughts here, and what are you expecting the rest of the week down there in Florida? I mean, you guys had a pretty rainy, cold day the other day.
Finally. Yes, we did get rain. I think it was yesterday. We had rain all the way through Saturday night into Sunday, and we had intermittent showers pretty much all day yesterday. For the remainder of the week, like Joey said, we're going to go on a warming trend, and that's just how Florida is. It'll get cold for a while, then we'll go back up into warm. Should be expecting lower 80s for the highs by Friday and Saturday. But we're going to pretty much stay pretty cool for the next couple of days. Pretty much Thursday is going to be our warming trend is going to start.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And for me, I guess my thing is, like, obviously, I'm really excited to see if we actually get any snowfall tomorrow, or if they, decided to cancel all the schools prematurely. Well, it's Georgia. Rather be safe than sorry. We don't want a repeat of 2011 with all the cars stuck out on the interstate, things like that. So, I'll let them do it. But personally, I feel that the city of Atlanta and the surrounding communities may get up to a half of an inch. I don't think we'll get any more than that. I just think the front's going to dry up too quickly for us to really get a whole lot. Just looking at radar trends and things like that. But then we're going to get it's going to get cold here too. We're going to be down in the 20s, maybe upper teens for some places a little bit further north. Wind chills. Not going to be as bad as up there, probably in the teens for a lot of areas, which is cold, but we're not going to be, approaching zero or anything like that. So it shouldn't be bad. But then again, beginning of February, things hopefully warming up and hopefully getting to see some rain, maybe some thunderstorms, maybe get in a storm chase, before I head back to work February 7th, things like that. So it should be good. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode here. Dan's, I think, got one more thing there. Go ahead, Dan.
Just real small. I mentioned that our forecast high was -12 for Wednesday.
Yeah.
Well, they updated it. We're now forecast for -16 actual temp. So if that holds true, we may beat that 1951 record.
May happen. It could happen, believe it or not. So again, thank you, Dan. Thank you, Rob, for joining us. And thank you to all of you for watching. If this is your first time, definitely be sure to subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Twitter. Reach out to us. Again, I can't stress this enough. We really thank you guys for being a part of what we do here at StormCast. We want to see your guys' pictures and videos and things like that. And we hope you guys have a fantastic evening. So for all of us here at StormCast, I just want to say thank you so much. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a good night. And we'll see you guys next time on EWV StormCast. Have a good one, guys. And we will see you next time. Thanks for watching.